Bill Hansel here again, your friendly local constitutional counselor from California. And I'm just kicking off something I really should have been doing earlier, but this is now going to be an all out assault on homeowners associations, the proverbial weak link. And like I say, I should have been doing this earlier. But the big deal about this is, and you're going to learn, uh, is that they have no authority whatsoever. And the great news at the start is what you're going to learn here is going to be good in a lot of other areas. Evictions, foreclosures, child procurement syndicate, criminal court, you name it. The issues are the same and we can beat them across the board. And not only does Trump know that, and you'll learn about his astounding recent executive order that sounds exactly like me, Bondi knows it, and the current justices of the U.S. Supreme Court are well aware of what the real problem is here. And the big one is the 14th Amendment and civil rights. It doesn't exist, never did. But with HOAs, to start out with, they think you have to join with them in a contract that they never make a full disclosure of all the terms and conditions of the agreement. That's bad enough. But they can't take the position, that for members of the sovereign body politic that we're confident and we know the law because that doesn't work. In an earlier era, it did, maybe 100 years or so ago, where you actually got some education in the mandatory public education system, and people generally knew the history of the United States. But it sure as hell isn't true now. There's nothing like that. There wasn't in all those decades ago when I was in school outside of Washington, D.C. I didn't learn jack. Better education in many ways, by the way, and all the transgender crap and this, that, and the other, but it just wasn't there. Because if I had known, and instinctively I did, even at a young age, but I never learned it like we should be doing, and you should be doing, and your children and your posterity should be doing. And that's a great result here because you can teach them and they're going to learn it that way if they have to. And by the way, on that note, oh, by the way, send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. On that note, I'm looking for some sponsorships here to do a set of videos, just like I'm doing right now, a cappella, discussion of 230 years of the Constitution, history, and laws of the United States. And that's going to be a big seller, especially with the trend nowadays tending toward more people going to homeschooling their children. And that's a big reason for it, even if they don't overtly understand it. But to return to the HOAs, there's no possible way. If they disclose all the terms of the agreement, and you're going to find this out, there's no way you would sign it. They can't do it. Because, among other things, it volunteers you into having a residence, quote unquote, in my former hometown of Washington, D.C. It subjects you to Commerce Clause powers of Congress, and the Supreme Court, as you will learn, have ruled those are closely associated with the Admiralty jurisdiction, known to those racist framers as a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws that no state court can exercise. Send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. And the obvious question is, you get into one of their courts, aka executive administrative tribunals, where the fuck are we and why? We're not in a judicial court. And you will learn we have not only the right to that from day one, the right to trial by jury according to the courses of common law. And it goes all the way back to the Magna Carta in 1215. Where the hell is that gone? You're going to learn exactly what happened and why. And they think you have no rights, zero. The only body politic they recognize today is what I call the jus soli, foreign state subordinate, corporate made dead birthright citizenship of the 14th Amendment, which not only doesn't exist, it never has. And you're going to learn all about that too. And you civil rights types, even if you're acting in good faith, when you learn this factor, you should be running as far as you can the opposite direction. Because not only it doesn't work, but you'll learn that federal regional martial law rule is intimately associated with the 14th Amendment, and it has destroyed the sovereign independent states and our Republican form of government of defined and limited powers. And we want it back. And yes, oh, by the way, these are white supremacist arguments, no question about it. I don't make any apologies for that. But if we get back to where we should be, we can go back and do it right. And there is a lawful way to increase the sovereign body politic, but it sure as hell didn't happen during the war between the states and Reconstruction. We're going to learn all about that too. Send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. And this is what these homeowners associations have to deal with. But you, on the other hand, have, among other things, the unlimited power to contract secured by Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution, unless the HOAs take the position that the ratification of NEFLA, the non-existent 14th War Amendment, did away with at least Article 1, Section 9 and 10, and maybe the Ninth Amendment too, but it did it secretly, and nobody who ratified the amendment, even if it lawfully exists, had a clue what was going on then. The magnitude of the issues here. And you're right, you should have learned all this back in the 9th and 10th grade, but they're not teaching it anymore. I am. So send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. And the more of us that get out there and the quicker we take action, we make these HOAs go away, and that sets the precedent where we can go after everybody else. It's the same issues. No trial by jury, no common law. And you're in a system, by the way, that started out as principal and agent. Okay, those racist framers ordained and established this Constitution to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Nowadays, all we have, are what I suggested earlier. They reduced this to, at best, guardian and ward, if not master and slave, courtesy of the ratification of the non-existent 14th War Amendment, which, as I mentioned, is closely associated with federal regional martial law rule. And that's why when you look at the flags that are so often in the pictures with all these official actors, you probably don't have a fucking clue. Yellow fringe around it. The U.S. Attorney General has ruled in 1921 that's a clear warning that you're in a military jurisdiction. And that's one reason, by the way, that Trump can issue all these executive orders like he's doing. But I think he has the ulterior motive here because he knows what I just said. And he knows that, that sovereign, that body politic, the 14th Amendment body politic, totally subject to the federal regional martial law rule. Might as well fucking be in the army. That's what they think. That's not the way it is, and we want to get it back as quickly as we can do. Send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. You'll learn all about how to do that. And not only this context of what works with HOAs, and there's a weak link here, no question about it. It's going to work across the board with all these other jokers. And oh, by the way, since nobody is acting in any official capacity, particularly in a judicial court, of which there are none known to be in existence, even if we filed suit, and we won't be doing that, but even if we did, they don't even have qualified, let alone absolute judicial immunity. And it's so bad today you can actually get fined yourself for filing a case like that for wasting your judicial fucking economy of the court when it's acting an executive administrative tribunal. This has to stop. And it's good for me, good for you, your family, your posterity. So send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com, and you'll learn how to deal with all of this. And it's a great feeling. And once you realize that, that you are, a good person and you have creator endowed and alienable rights and that your life is important, exactly the opposite of what they think today. That makes a lot of other changes we'll talk about in another video as well. And it helps you to teach your kids and your posterity so they get out from under early on. And if and when they happen to get on a jury, they'll know they have the power to rule on the facts and the law. And that's going to be a default judgment in our favor every time that happens. That's how good a job those racist framers did. It's amazing. It really is. But that said, send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. Remember to subscribe, like the video, tell your friends, get the word out. The sooner we start taking action here, the quicker we make these bastards go away. And who knows, some of them may actually earn an all expenses paid vacation at Alligator Alcatraz. Have a nice day. Thank you.